All right, welcome to the debut of Ace's Place. All my Ace-ites, all my Ace-maniacs, are you ready? I'm starting out with a bam. Make that a boom. Make that a bang. I've got a big guest here today, but before I introduce her, let me ask you this. Imagine, if you can, back to when you was 9 years old. Think what you were doing. Were you chasing after the ice cream truck going crazy over the Mr. Softy sound? Were you playing kickball, doing the double dutch? Well, my guest at age 9 had a hit record, was touring, and by the time she was in high school, had already met Michael Jackson. But then one day, as she got older, she gave it all up for a bigger stage. My guest at this time on Ace's Place is from D.C. Hopefully, she's not a Redskins fan. Oh, God, as a Cowboy. Go Cowboys, just in case. Now, she's in the Maryland area. I'd like to introduce to you Ace's Place, Stacy Lattisaw. Say hello, Stacy.
Hello. How's everybody doing?
Well, this is the big excitement here. This is really making Ace's Place legit. But before we get started, I want you to picture something. It's about 1987, Atlanta, Georgia, Lenox Square Mall, the McDonald's. You were there. I was there. We looked at each other and said hello. I remember it. Do you remember me?
I'm sorry, but I have met so many people.
That's it.
I do apologize. I don't remember.
Edit that part out, please. Cut. No, I'm just playing.
Oh, no.
I didn't expect you to. Now, like I was saying in the promo, it seems like about 9 years old when you got your first hit. I think what everybody'd like to know is, how did you become the Stacy Lattisaw that we first came to know? That little girl into that big world of music and R&B.
Well, actually, I started singing at 6 years old, and I started, my mom noticed that I could sing. She started to get me in talent shows and fashion shows in the D.C. area, and they would always carry around a tape recorder, and they would take me singing. And my aunt, she worked with an attorney over at Atlantic Records in New York. So she would always tell him about her niece and how I could sing and everything, and she wanted him to hear me sing. So he was like, well, do you have a tape or something I can listen to? So she handed him the tape one day, and he listened to it, and he took it over to the president of Atlantic Records, and he listened to it and told us to come to New York. And the four of us drove up there. It was my parents and I and my brother, and within 2 weeks, I was actually signed to Atlantic Records. I got my first deal. I was 12 and a half when my first single was released. So yeah, I recorded a number of albums after that, and moved on to Motown. I did 6 albums over at Atlantic, and I recorded 4 albums over at Motown.
Now, through the time from you began to the time where you walked away, of the producers that you dealt with, who were some of the ones that you dealt with and that you really felt musically just you enjoyed?
Actually, I work with lots of producers, but I would say Narada Michael Walden.
Okay.
I think that, him and I, we just seemed to work. We just, immediately when we met, we clicked. And he wrote, actually pretty much everything up until, I think around the 5th album, he wrote and produced Let Me Be Your Angel, Love on Two-Way Street, which actually was a remake.
Right.
Narada he did so many hits. He was just fantastic to work with. And I think that, working with him, I was able to sing out the way I wanted to sing, and he just let me be me.
Right.
Because I remember I worked with a specific producer whom I will not name.
I got you.
But he would say things to me like, he would say, well, why don't you sing this part like Janet Jackson? I'm like, no disrespect, but I'm Stacy Lattisaw.
Exactly.
I don't care to sing like anybody else. So I was like, that's not cool. I would say out of everyone I work with, I would say Narada was probably, we just were a good team.
Good. Now, something that you said that kind of popped in my head here. You had mentioned you did a cover tune called Love on the Two-Way Street.
Right.
All right. And then, ironically, down the line, as a matter of fact, during that time where we met, and you don't remember, but you had that. I love your version. I Don't Have the Heart, and then I believe James Ingram finally redid it and came out and actually made a bigger splash. How did you feel? Someone singing your song that you put out, and maybe because of promotion or something, or just because of James Ingram was the hot item at the time, climbed the charts with it more. Just like you did really well with Love on a Two-Way Street. I mean, what was your feelings on that?
Well, to be honest with you, that song was written, I cannot remember the writer's name, but that was actually James Ingram's single. It was such a strange thing because from what I understand, our singles were released at the same time. Now, I don't know how it happened, but at the time, I was over at Motown. That was one of the songs that they wanted me to record. So, I did not have much control at the time as far as what songs, I chose. And they pretty much gave me songs, and they were like, well, these are the songs we want you to do. So there were lots of songs that I was not in favor of recording, but it was like, I really didn't have much say. So anyway, that particular song, to me, it was a fantastic song. It just was not, in my opinion, it just was not my style. As I kind of got older, and I was kind of, I would say, finding my niche, as far as the type of songs I wanted to sing, they were more soulful songs,
Right.
And I don't know if you remember this song I recorded, Every Drop of Your Love.
Yes, I do.
That was one of my favorite songs. I also recorded Let Me Take You Down. That was, I would say, one of my favorite songs because that was, this song just fitted my voice. It was written and produced by the late Lou Pace.
Okay.
And he was a producer out of Florida. And we had gone up to Florida and did some recordings with him. And that particular song was like he had written it especially for me. And when I went in the studio, I recorded it. It just came out fantastic. And I was just so pleased with the production and everything. That song really it did well, but it was not a number one
right
song on the Billboard charts. But songs like that, and that really was a song that I actually chose, that particular one. But as I said before, when I was younger, it was like I didn't have any say in the selection of songs that they had pretty much gave me, and it was like you just sing what we tell you to sing, and I was just never really cool with that, but that's the way it went down,
I'm sure a lot of us remember also your time with Johnny Gill. Now, if I remember right, he was from the D.C. area or something like that also?
Yeah, we went to school together.
So you did know each other?
Yeah, we dated for 3 years. Actually, Johnny, and we used to have talent shows over at my house. And some of us would sing, some would act, some would dance. And Johnny used to come over a lot after school. So one particular day he was over the house, and he actually did a song. So I didn't know he could sing. After he sang the song, I ran upstairs and told my mother. I was about 15 years old, and I told my mom, I said, Boogie, that's his nickname, Boogie. Mm-hmm. I said, Boogie can sing. I said, you got to hear him sing. So that's what she came downstairs, and she was like, well, we have to get Henry. Henry was the president of Atlantic at the time. She said, we have to get Henry to hear him sing. So we told Henry about him, and Johnny went up to New York. He got his first record deal through Atlantic Records.
Just more of a curiosity question for myself about Johnny, and I know more about you, but I've always wondered this. Uh-huh. Now, of course, he was young, and he had this manly voice, which might have hurt him at first, because here he is, 12, 13-year-old young man singing about 14, okay? Yeah. And it's just kind of hard to feel that. How can you tell me? But later on, he did join New Edition, it seemed like, and it grew him up, got with Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. Did he confide in you with that? Did he talk to you about that as far as moving on, trying to grow up, or did he just...
Well, not at all. Not really, because what happened was, Johnny and I dated.
Right.
And because we dated from, we were maybe 15 to almost 19 years old. We dated for 4 years. So as time went on, I just decided to move on with my life. And I met someone else, and I started dating someone else, and he moved to California, and it just was not a good breakup as far as on his side. But I just decided to move on with my life. Yeah, he decided to move to California, and for a long period of time we didn't speak because, things were a little shaky.
True.
So anyway, I later on met my husband, who was my sound engineer at the time. So once I got married, my husband was not cool with Johnny and I keeping in touch. You know, that to me it just wasn't appropriate. Yeah, so we talk every once in a while, regarding business, but I really don't.
I understand. Definitely, it all makes sense. Now, as you were growing up and getting into the music business, and perhaps maybe in the business, who was your influences that you built off of? That maybe you tried to sing like, or maybe not be like, or.
Well, back then, of course, I sang a lot. I used to love Natalie Cole.
Okay.
Yes, I loved her music and still do. I used to listen to Gladys Knight. There was a song she had. Can't remember it now, of course, but anyway, I listened to a lot of her songs. And there was an artist. I can't remember her name, but the name of the song was called Misty Blue. That song was fantastic. I used to love that song. So I listened to her a lot. Back then, those were my favorite female artists.
What you did when you was growing up, into what you know now, what would you have done differently to have and still have that Stacy Lattisaw career, and what would you have kept the same?
Oh gosh, oh my God, that's a good question. What would I have done differently? Yeah, well, to be honest with you, I think I would. If it were up to me, I would have started singing at maybe 16 or 17 years old, because the music business is very stressful and very challenging. And being 13 years old, on the road for weeks at a time was it just was very difficult for me. By the time I was 15, I was having panic attacks and I was depressed, and, I had money and things, but I was just never really content. I think that if I had started later on, then possibly I would have been better prepared, to handle the type of success and the type of pressure and demand. I would say demand.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a good
What a first half of an interview with Stacy Lattisaw here on Ace's Place. Have you guys learned some things maybe you didn't know yet? How she got started. I mean, at 9 years old, she starts. 12 years old, she releases that first hit. And then from there, it just began steamrolling. And then she became that Stacy Lattisaw that we all knew and loved. And that powerful voice, something else that just, when she sang, you stopped, you listened, and you didn't move until the song was over. You feel me? She talked about her producers that she liked working with. Talked about certain songs, ones that she loved there at the end of her career. She talked about, and we're not going to say his nickname, only she could say it, about Johnny Gill. So stay tuned for the second half of the interview coming up later in the hour. But what we're going to do now is take a pause for the cause. And then we're going to come back and listen to some of Stacy's hits. From the end to the beginning. Stuff you may remember, be like, oh my goodness, I didn't realize that was Stacy. And then, of course, you're going to hear that stuff that you knew was Stacy. So get ready. This is Ace's Place. Right here. Same Ace place, same Ace time, same Ace channel every week. Get ready, because I'm bringing you what you want to hear. I'm bringing you something soothing and pleasing to your ear. This is Ace's Place. Hit me up if you want on Facebook at Ace Mendez The Voice, on Twitter at Ace_the_voice. Hit me up at the email, acesplaceshow@gmail.com. Some things you'd like to hear. But let's take a little pause for the cause and get ready, your Stacy's music. Ace's Place.